Hey, what's good, y'all? A couple days ago, I put out a post on my Instagram asking for everyone's hot takes to use in this video, and you guys put over 500 comments. So today I'm gonna go through some of those. I separated the takes into different categories, as you'll see. So let's get into it. None of the shows from the big three are 7+. Starting off pretty light, yeah, I don't think there's anyone who's really dove into One Piece who thinks it's worse than a 7, other than me, of course. I was assuming he was talking about the manga the first time I read the question, but as I scrolled down, it was obvious he was talking about anime. So honestly, yeah, it's a valid take. Having Bleach, Naruto, and One Piece anime under a 7 is nothing too crazy. Pineapple on pizza is great. It's the question that divides mankind. I'm not a pineapple extremist, but no, I would never go out of my way to order pineapple on my pizza. Like, bro, pineapples are juicy and sweet, or like sour depending on how good the pineapple is. And you know pizza places don't be having good pineapples. They pull that shit out of a can. So, I'm a no. We got a bunch of takes here from King Mello. There's something here trying to validate Madara being backstabbed by Zetsu, but I haven't had an interest in discussing anything Naruto related since probably 2014. The Magic Games from Fairy Tail is the best tournament arc from all of anime. I see what you're saying because from what I remember from the tournament, it comes right after the big time skip, and now Fairy Tail has to reprove themselves to be a valid guild, but nah, definitely not the best tournament. The Dark Tournament definitely gotta be above. I'd even throw the Sports Festival from My Hero in there. That's such a massive piece for the series in terms of its characters. But for the Grand Magic Games, it definitely felt like a bit too convenient to serve the show. Like, wow, the whole cast was just frozen in time for like almost a decade. So yeah, let's show one episode of how the guild changed since, and then bang, Magic Games so we could reprove themselves and nothing from the time skip actually matters. I wouldn't say the fights in the tournament are better than anything you just see in Fairy Tail up until that point. Just the same old shit with like a couple cool pairing of characters. Manhwa art tends to be better than manga and someday will surpass manga. Yeah, there definitely is some good art at like the peak of manhwa. Usually it's not great though. In terms of surpassing manga, as primitive as manga is, it's got a worldwide, already established international business, both physically and digitally. While most of a significant amount of manhwa come from independent sources or posted to sites like Webtoon. But who knows, one massively popular manhwa could change like everything. Seinen manga as a demographic tend to be overrated because people only read the elite seinen stories out there like Berserk and Vagabond. A mid-shonen manga is normally a lot better than a mid-seinen manga. I see this line said a lot, and what I have to say is, who the fuck cares? Who cares about the mid? Mid is mid. You practically just said a pound of stones is heavier than a pound of feathers. If you're saying shonen manga on average is better than seinen, who cares? If you'd prefer 100 manga you rate 7s over a handful of manga you'd rate 10, I think you have your priorities wrong. For me, I have something like 16 out of my top 20 manga being seinen, with maybe a couple shoujo manga in there as well. So obviously I'm inclined to say seinen is better when it comes to the best of the best. And in conclusion, I'm saying average shonen manga is better than average seinen manga is just a flat out stupid take. 5 centimeters per second is a great anime that realistically depicts the pain of moving on. It doesn't deserve the hate it gets for being boring. And yeah, I agree, 5 centimeters per second has some of the greatest directing in anime, telling a story and invoking emotions almost purely off visuals and atmosphere. I think this movie is much more relatable than a lot of people think it is. You don't have to relate in a sense of being exactly like the movie. It doesn't have to be a romance you're moving on from. Something that I see that could be inevitably relatable for everyone is what comes after high school. You start growing away from your friends and not seeing them as often as you thought you would. Your life starts changing quickly. You wish you could just spend a couple more days in high school, but there comes a point where you just have to move on and continue in life. And yeah, I think 5 centimeters per second does a great job of showing the difficulty in that of moving on. And I think the facet they used of telling this story was successful in how they did it. Yu Yu is the real Togashi masterpiece. No, definitely not. There's nothing Yu Yu Hakusho does better than Hunter x Hunter, other than maybe have a more likable cast, but even Hunter x Hunter has a great cast itself. There's nothing in Yu Yu anywhere near as valuable as Chimera Ant as well. The Dark Tournament's great, but no. Hanekawa isn't top 5. I mean, yeah, sure, you could put Hitagi, Sorachi, obviously Shinobu, Nadeko, Meikamburu. I don't know about Hachikuji and Yatsuki though. When I was in my Yatsuki phase, I definitely would have put her above, but I think her actual personality and growth is the main thing she has going for her. Her whole main dilemma in Suki wasn't great. I did a whole post on it, and I don't think she has anything special beyond that. Whereas Hanekawa actually does have the personality and the growth. I think her dilemma is pretty amazing and relatable to a lot of people. Receiving such a large amount of stress that it causes the cat to come out was always interesting, and then further going into that later on. I think Hanekawa is a pretty amazing character. For me, I'd say top 5. Lelouch is a blatant Gary Stu with absurd levels of plot armor, but gets a pass since people consider Code Geass a more intellectual series than the average shonen. And yeah, of course, Lelouch is such a massive Gary Stu that they literally had to make a malfunction for his abilities for no reason other than to just keep the plot moving. Because he's so perfect during the series that there's no other reason he didn't already accomplish his goal by that part in the story. In terms of being a more intellectual series than the average shonen, yeah, sure, it's in the same adrenaline type as Death Note, whereas Light starts off with a little strategic plot, and he just ups the ante as the stakes get higher so he can continue the usage of his Death Note, his power. Whereas Lelouch, his strategy relies around his Geass to make sure everything works, and it literally does every time, because there's almost no flaw to his ability, making him a Gary Stu. And the whole thing about people only having Geass used on them once isn't really a flaw that can be worked around. Half the entertainment from Death Note comes from Light having to outsmart people and gain access to names just so he can use the Death Note. So in conclusion, I went off topic and I don't know if I answered anything anymore, but Death Note over Code Geass. One Piece has the worst start of the big 3. Yeah, it's pleasable. Bleach has a fast opening and is extremely memorable, as well as Naruto to a lesser degree. One Piece doesn't have a bad opening, just all the characters other than Zoro, they literally feel like a gag character you'd find in the weekly comic section of a newspaper. And while One Piece always retains a bit of that feeling, the beginning had nothing other than this feeling, so yeah, I could definitely get behind this. I feel like no matter what, manga will always be better than anime. If you're comparing mediums in a broad sense, there's not really anything to argue because that's literally just preference of if you like reading or watching. If you're saying anime adaptations are never better than the manga, two of the biggest anime right now prove you wrong. Both are miles ahead of what they accomplished in the same time in the manga. So I disagree. Everyone complains about shonen tars being annoying, but I think romance slice of life fans can be equally annoying. I guess I am an annoying slice of life romance fan because I don't know, I don't really see it. What are we annoying about? Bleach is the best of the big 3. I'll say this quick, Bleach does nothing as well as One Piece does in any sense of any aspect. Cowboy Bebop is peak episodic anime. No. Romance in the vast majority of anime manga is badly done. And, well yeah, it'd be hard to write a romance when you've never had any yourself. Typically, yeah, romance series have one or two extremely dense characters to the point of like unbelievability. They stretch plots, people be dramatic and indecisive for way too long of a period of time, and they typically cut the story before any real parts of relationships even happen. Obviously there's a bunch of exceptions, but yeah, for the most part, the actual portrayal of romance is usually terrible. Record of Ragnarok is the best new gen. No. Eren isn't an antagonist. Bro, we already know literally only Crunchyroll and some dumb sections of Twitter thinks he is. We don't need dissections or posts or videos explaining why he's not when a Google search of the word antagonist supports you. If you still got people who don't know the meaning of an antagonist, you're on the wrong side of the community. That's all I can say. Because of TikTok, the anime community has expanded but devolved. No, I wouldn't say devolved, just those people who begun anime because of TikTok's influence are experiencing the typical series you'd watch first, and since they're on TikTok, they have a platform to express their feelings for said show, often resulting in the Instagram anime manga community to kind of look down upon these people to agree because they're showing love to, how would you say it, vanilla series in the grand scope of the anime catalog. So no, I disagree. Blue Period is the best shonen manga ongoing right now. No. Steel Ball Run is good, 10 out of 10, but it's overrated by a lot. What? If you consider Steel Ball Run a 10 out of 10, what's a rating you'd consider is overrated for Steel Ball Run? SAO ain't that bad. Yeah, the first episodes are pretty good. I think everyone kind of agrees with that. The second half of season 1 turns into a Berserker spin-off, and at the end of Ironclad you get no reason as to why any of this even happened in the first place. In season 2, of course, Gun Gale Online is ridiculous. Just the fact that they say the saber is the most difficult weapon to use so no one uses it proves that no person working on SAO knows a thing about video games. Everyone knows the weapons that are harder to use typically have the biggest upside and would make players curious. So to say nobody tries it other than our main character is a massive finger in the ass to a series that's supposed to be based in video games. Domestic Girlfriend isn't that bad. It's that bad. Demon Slayer anime without the cringe comedy is top 10 of all time. I don't think the comedy is anyone's reason for not being top 10. Cringe comedy is kind of just expected from shonen anime, so I don't think there's anyone who really knocks it for that. Fairy Tail and SAO are quite enjoyable if motherfuckers stop nitpicking. Well, here's the thing, who's to say what's nitpicking and what's not? Valid criticisms for some people get dismissed as nitpicking for others. The homie Rap Thought World had an interesting take on plot holes, and we had a discussion that I'm pretty sure we ended up agreeing on. That plot holes are minor in the grand scheme of things if the peak is still valuable to you. Like I've kind of mentioned for SAO before, the creator of the game and pretty much the creator of all the conflict in the story pretty much had no reason to do anything he did, and he forgot why he did it. Which, this is the whole question you're chasing the whole series along with the main character. What would someone accomplish from doing all this? And right at the peak of the season, the main character meets the creator, and he says, haha, I don't know, get franked, you stupid fucks. But even in this case with SAO and Fairy Tail, we're not talking about plot holes being the reason they suck. The typical criticisms are characters being bad, plots being stupid, and just having no actual substance. And if you can explain your view and elaborate on these points, that's not nitpicking at all, that's literally just explaining why the anime sucks. The reason you'd probably say there's nitpicking is because of the amount of detail people go into explaining why it sucks. Which yeah, the small details may sound like nitpicking, but it's the small details that contribute to the broader reason that makes it be a bad aspect. There hasn't been a single good romance anime manga created past 2000 directly due to current otaku culture. Yeah, I definitely disagree, but the best romance anime manga come from series where romance isn't the primary focus and the theme of the story. Rather, they use the romance to fuel that message that the series is trying to get across, where you get stuff like Pun Pun, Clannad, Our Happy Hours, Kids on the Slope. I'd even go as far to say that the romance that comes after 2000 blows everything out of the water that came before it. But even when you're talking about otaku culture, which I don't even fully know what you're talking about, I figure you're talking about something like Love is War, which would fit into the bill. And Love is War tells us several meaningful stories through its characters beyond just the romance. So I'm gonna have to heavily disagree. Great animation and soundtrack will never make up for a lack of story, character writing, and thematic depth. And yeah, obviously no one consciously thinks it does. Most people won't actively say animation quality and soundtrack is more important than actual substance. But series with the most substance aren't always the most watched or highest selling. I think the obvious example here is Demon Slayer. Production is pretty much some of the best you'll ever find in anime anywhere, and a lot of people are drawn into it subconsciously because of that. And like, yeah, you're a bit tricked because everything looks and sounds so good that I guess your brain kind of assumes everything else is on par with those aspects or some shit, like, I don't know. So yeah, obviously, a more meaningful story is more valuable than good animation and soundtrack. Farnese has one of the best character developments in all of anime manga. Her change from the very first encounter she had with Guts to her journey into Casca's mind is a masterpiece. Yeah, for sure. I actually can't understand how Bleach was ever considered in the big three. Was there nothing else to watch or read at the time? As a fellow Bleach consumer, Shoku is correct. Cheese is the worst food of all time. No, definitely not. Cheese is way too versatile to be the worst. There's so many different cheeses and different ways to use cheese that you'd have to be specific on what type of cheese and how. And peak cheese is pretty amazing. Logic over Drake. The only thing that makes this even a thought is Under Pressure. Other than that, no, Drake has Take Care, What a Time to Be Alive, If You're Reading This Is Too Late, and Nothing Was the Same. Pretty much safely over Under Pressure. But you know what? Logic raps fast, so I don't know. Wally over Ratatouille. Yeah, 100%. For me, Wally is the best non-live action movie to come from the West, so yeah, I agree. I love Wally, man. Kanye better meatloaf, Kendrick better whole wheat bread. Uh, I think that's the typical stance in the community, right? I'm pretty sure everyone agrees. The Promised Neverland was miles better than AOT and One Piece. I've watched them all as well as read the manga, and I'm talking about the Promised Neverland anime. Uh, sure, the first season of The Promised Neverland was a fun watch, but it literally amounted to nothing. The first season has a valid message on a couple things, but in the end, it's not even comparable to like if you read One Piece's Fishman Island for a message about racism. Isayama chose to make the ending different for the manga and comparatively worse, so that when he changes it for the anime to be the true ending, the manga only readers can't spoil the anime only watchers. Definitely not. That would be a terrible idea in pretty much every way. I don't think any author is out here intentionally putting out something to sabotage a series that they spent so much time putting together so intricately. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys. Thank you to everyone who put a comment under my post to be in this video. I'll definitely be making more and include some of the comments that I didn't use in this video. And next time I do it, I'll make sure to repost it to remind everyone to put maybe their new hot takes in it. So make sure to watch out for that. Thank you to everyone who watched and subscribe for more.